Alexander, and I'd like to welcome you to our continuing videotape series on Okinawan Shorin-ryu Karate. This is tape 3, which includes the Pinan Yandan Kata and Pinan Godan Kata. We'll perform both kata for you using our teaching formula of performing the kata once at regular speed and then a second time at slow speed, talking you through the movements and explaining exactly what's going on. And then finally, we will conclude with an explanation of the bunkai or practical application of each and every movement. I hope you enjoy the tape. The kata I'd like to do for you now is Pinan Yandan. Pinan Yandan is the fourth kata in the Pinan series. You'll recall that there are 5 Pinan kata altogether. This is number 4. Pinan Yandan. Hiya! Now we'll go through Pinan Yandan slowly and analyze each movement as we go along in kata. Okay. First of all, for courtesy, like you start all of your kata, yoi position or ready position. Head snap first, step out into a pasai dachi and block with the left hand and assume the right hand up above the head position. Next, head snap to the other side. Just flip your hands right across like that, reversing the technique so it winds up on the other side. Now, stepping in, outside block. Remember, it's supported. Your right hand is up towards your elbow. Next move is to step forward and reikin, or a back fist strike coming straight down vertically, and kiai. Next movement in the kata. Head snap left, step up, assume this chambered position. All right, now, right from here, you then execute a front kick and left knife hand block simultaneously. Snap back, step down, elbow strike. That's the next move. All right, right from here, stand up again, looking the other way. Remember, you're in musubi dachi, the attention stance, and execute the same technique on the other side. This time a right knife hand block and a right side front kick, simultaneously done. Elbow strike. Head snap back to the center line. This time you're going to step up, assume a new stance, block with the left hand, and then prepare to chop with the right hand. Now you twist your hips into the next movement, block with the left, and chop with the right. All right, this sets you up for the following technique, which is to step forward, front kick, step down, and then bring your rear foot up behind into a kosa-dachi, or close stance. And while you do that, you execute soto uke, or outside block. Next move, you're going to face to your rear, 45 degrees, by uncoiling from the stance that you're in now, and block with an outside block with your left hand. Looks like this. All right. What happens is you wind up in a kind of a shallow stance. The next move is front kick, out and back, double punch. Let me step out of the embusen, a line of movement of the kata for you so you can see what's happening here. The movement is to outside block, front kick out and back, and then double punch. Now, when you uncoil from that previous stance, it leaves you in sort of a high stance, which feels a little odd. The way you correct that is after you front kick, you step back further into the correct stance, which is Pinan dachi. All right, now we'll go back to the line of movement or the embusen of the kata. Remember, block, front kick, double punch. Next move, head snap right, turn to your right 90 degrees, outside block. This sets you up on a 45, actually, to your right. Same movement, front kick out and back, double punch. Now, next movement in the kata. We'll step out of the embusen for a second. You simply step in, down block, and then from here, elbow strike like that. Your palm is down, by the way, so that you wind up in this kind of a movement here. And make sure your fingers are closed and your thumb is wrapped up like that and your wrist is straight. None of this kind of thing. Just like that, good form, nice and clean so that the kata looks good. All right, so stepping forward, down block, elbow strike. Next move. The wings of the crane unfold to grab an attacker coming towards you, front kick and ki. All right, let's go through that a second. Down block, elbow strike. Now what happens after the elbow strike is you draw your hands to your hips. They open, cross, left hand on top, and fold out like this into this natural position. When we do the application, you'll see why this natural position is so important. And then the following move is to front kick to the front, turn and face the opposite direction in knife hand block. So now, back to the actual line of movement of the kata. Here's what it looks like. Turn, and then you have one more knife hand block. Step back, block again. Yame. Stand back up to the natural stance. Next move, the right foot moves to the left. That happens in all of our kata. And rei at the end. And then you're done. That's Pinan Yandan. In the next sequence, we'll work on the bunkai, or practical application of the kata. Now, we'll show you the application of the movements of Pinan Yandan. Remember, in any of your bunkai or practical application analysis of the techniques of your particular form or kata that you're studying, there's always more than one interpretation. There's always more than one application that you can derive from a series of movements. That's because karate is an art, right? So it's always subject to interpretation. What we'll do here is give you some ideas, maybe some of the standard practices used in different areas of the kata, but you can come up with your own ultimately. And experimentation, your own thought process is important in your development as a martial artist. This is simply how to do the kata properly, what some of the standard responses are in interpreting the movements. You may come up with some of your own, which become your own particular bunkai. That's fine. The first thing is, remember that kata begins by coming to this yoi or ready position, head snap, step out, and do this sort of a twin block kind of a move like this. All right, so we want to show you a couple little things on that, how that works, how you can use that for your own personal self-defense. Okay. All right, so the first movement is when you are attacked, and we'll do it from the side, but you should also know that you could be front-facing to your opponent like this, and the same thing will work. You can practice it either way. But just for formality's sake, let's just make like we're in the embusen, or the pattern of the kata, to make the technique work, and that you're going to be attacked from the side. Hey. All right. That is the first level of bunkai. We'll do it again for you slow now. As the attack comes in, you step off. Remember, you tai sabak, you put yourself on an angle with your opponent. If you remember from previous tapes, if you step straight back, you can get hit. You must step out of the line of the kata movement just slightly when you're doing these bunkai drills to add some further reality to what's actually happening here. Block. Okay, the first block is hooking over the punch. All right, that stops it and then allows you to guide it by grabbing. The next move is your right hand is set up for a chop. As you turn your hips, you just flow the chop right in towards the neck, right along this muscle group, along the side of the neck, right like that. All right, now, basic level. Height, basic level of understanding what that movement is. Now, let's expand on that. Take the same movement and show you how you can add more to it and actually make the movement more complex depending on how sophisticated you want to get. Height. Okay. All right. Now, let's go through it again. We'll go through it slow so you can see what actually happened there. As you're attacked, you step off, same idea. Step out of the line of attack, block, chop. Next movement is grab behind the head, drive a knee strike into the solar plexus. Now, come over the top. Now we're going to do a joint lock like this. Thumb is against here. Your hand is always against the elbow joint. It's always two hands to do the joint locking technique. A little pushing in and a little pressure down brings your opponent right where you want him. He's set up now for a kick. You can kick like that in practice. In actuality, you may kick there or you may kick to the face. Be careful on that. Next movement is to follow up now and reverse or throw him the other way. Okay, once the kick is executed, you can then grab his gi, and remember, you still have a sort of a tuite or a joint locking grip on your opponent at all times. You always set up like that. Here's a fulcrum, here's a wrist lock. Okay, you can force the wrist in and twist it out simultaneously, and then create a little elbow fulcrum, maybe a little shoulder thing. There's always something to work on so you have that technique. Finally, sweeping his leg out, pulling him all the way back, and then to finish up, fumikomi, stamping kick, all the way up and down. All right, remember to stay out of range of your opponent. Don't bend over like this so you get punched or kicked in the face. Just stay out of range. Hey, thank you. All right, that's the first movement of Pinan Yanda. So you're going to find out these Pinan kata are very rich in self-defense techniques. All right, continuing on with our kata, you'll realize that the next movement is to step to the opposite side, repeat the same movement of the same bunkai as practiced there. It is just symmetrical with your body. In other words, you do the same technique on the other side. Now, the next movement in the kata is to step forward from here, outside block, then step in again, and back fist. Very simplistic move here, nothing really complicated. We'll show you how that works. Hey. All right, all that's going on here is, as your opponent comes in, you block, supported block. When the next technique comes, you open your hand, block down, bring your fist up, and then rake it, or back fist to the bridge of the nose like that. And remember, you're always set up for the next technique to come along. There's always some other kind of counter. If he punches off the other side, you can block, tie that hand up, punch again. Or if he punches off the side, you can block and work some kind of a joint locking technique. It's all in your kata. This groin is now exposed. This is all within your kata. But this part is very simplistic. You're blocking, okay? The next punch comes that blocks with the hand that's already out, since this is a more efficient way to block the next technique. Raking or back fist like that. Hey. The next movement of Pinan Yangdan after the back fist is to step up into a kamai. A stance like this, facing to your left. Now you're going to front kick and simultaneously knife hand block. That's the technique, followed by an elbow strike. Now the way that works in practicality is like this. Hey! Yeah! Yeah! All right, now, a little bit slower. In actuality, what you will do is to use the same idea of tai sabak, or stepping away from your opponent, knife hand block like that to the inside. The next move is to follow up with a front snap kick to the groin. Very quick, snappy little technique. The signature technique of Shorin-Ryu, in fact. Very close in, very difficult to block. Almost impossible to block a little snap kick in that close. So, block the punch, kick the groin, step in now as you grab onto his gi, and then elbow strike. Either here or to the face like that, either one. Okay, so the whole idea is after the block, kick to set him up a little bit, and then elbow strike. To continue the sequence of movements in the kata, remember, the kata, for the most part, are symmetrical. So you practice the same technique off the other side. The next move now, you step out, block, chop. Then there's a sequence after that, which is all part of the same technique. You'll recall from the performance of the kata earlier, front kick, step into kosodachi, or the close stance, and then outside block, like this. Here's what that means. Hey. Maya! Maya! One more time. Maya! Maya! All right, now, a little slower analysis on that. As the punch comes in, you step off and block this way, setting yourself up for a chop. You'll remember that in the beginning of the kata, we have a bunkai similar to this. The application is similar. So this theme is now repeating itself in the kata once again. Grab, chop to the neck. Kick the groin. Okay, that sort of gets his attention a little bit. Little snap kick to the groin. Now step in and back fist. Okay, another thing you can do here is you can also, you can either back fist, or instead of the back fist, you can use this blocking sequence within the kata to do an arm bar like that. So that's just a variation. I leave that to your own practice. Right. Well, the kata now picks up from the preceding movement. You'll remember you are in kosodachi, or close stance, like that, with your feet together. Outside block position. Now, the next movement is to rotate counterclockwise, turn out, block, kick, double punch. The application, just exactly like you see it. Nothing complicated, nothing mystical. Hey. Hey. All right, now, slow motion. Need to work out some of the things on this. Okay, as the punch comes, block, outside block. Next movement is front kick, either to the solar plexus, pit of the stomach, or groin like that. Now, once you've done that, you'll notice that you are sort of separated from your opponent. After you've done the front kick, since it's a longer range technique, you need to close the gap before you launch your punch. Otherwise, you can't reach your opponent. So after the block and the front kick, you now need to step forward off of your lead leg and adjust your stance. This is sort of what you do when you're practicing the kata, when I told you earlier about the stance adjustment after the turn. You take your left foot, slide forward, and then launch your two punches like that so that you're within range. You'll recall the next sequence of movements in Pinan Yandan kata is to step out, down block, elbow strike like this. All right, and then it's followed with this grasping movement. We've actually got two bunkai there that will complete the kata. So it is down block, elbow strike, grab, and then front kick. That's two separate bunkai. We'll show you those right now. Hey. It's just what it looks like. It is just what it looks like. It is simply a down block against a front kick, followed up with sliding in with an elbow strike. Right. The next movement, this little crane-like movement, is to grab your opponent's hands and then follow up with a front kick. Hey! One more. All right, now, slow motion. When you perform the kata, it's important to practice this crossing so that you can get through up underneath and break the grip. Then we have this camming action, which actually pulls down. Now, another little hidden application that we have here is when you make the grasp, what you do is jerk your opponent forward like that. Okay, if he's not ready for this, what happens is it lurches him forward, and the fluid in the labyrinth of his ear becomes disturbed. When that fluid is disturbed, he cannot counterattack until it settles down again and he regains his balance. Gives you a momentary second to get off the counterattack which is this front kick right to the stomach. Hi! Thank you. All right, that concludes the bunkai for Pinan Yamdan. The final kata in the Pinan series is Pinan Godan. This particular version that I'm going to do for you now is unique to the Matsumura branch of Shorin-ryu. Pinan Godan. Following our same teaching formula that we use, I'm going to now go through the Pinan Godan kata with you at slow speed, explaining the kata movement by movement. Hi! Pinan Godan. Yoi position. All right, the first movement is head snap to the left, step out and away from the attack, outside block, and then reverse punch. Okay. Outside block, follow up with a reverse punch. Next move, head snap. Draw your right foot to your left, coming up into a musubidachi, tension stance, and bring your right hand in a sort of a guard position or kamae in front of your body. Head snap right, step out with the left foot this time. Outside block, left hand reverse punch. Next move, head snap to the center, step forward, and outside block. Now, stepping forward, come in with double fists like this. Next move, the left hand comes up in a blocking motion, followed by the right hand coming down. This is totally unique to this version of the kata. Next movement, stepping forward, you face to the rear, another unusual movement, and then you down block. Now, reverse that action, come back this way. What's happening here is you pull your rear foot up, change into a natural stance, touch your hands, spear hand to the throat. Next move, crescent kick, followed by an elbow strike. All right, the following movement, sliding your rear foot up, down block with the right hand, bringing your left hand up in a kamae to protect your head, and then turning that right hand from a down block position into a back fist. All right, next movement. Sliding off with your left foot, since it's already pointing in that direction now. You slide off, step, bring your hands in a cross position like this on the right side of your body. Slide forward again, this time all the way down into a blocking position. Make sure you keep your back straight and you lean down as much as possible like this. Actually, your butt should be touching the heel of your right foot. Now, standing up, rip your hands apart like that. Same movement is repeated on the other side. Step back, Hasai dachi, pulling your hands back. Finally, stand back up to the natural standing position, right foot to left, and then bow. Pinan Godan. Now, we're ready to begin our review of the practical application of the Pinan Godan techniques. You recall in the beginning of the kata, you go from an attention stance, step out away from the power, block and reverse punch. And the next movement is to come to this kamae, or standing posture, facing the opposite direction. Now, I want to show you two levels of bunkai here. Two levels. One, a more simplistic rather, where you just simply block and then throw the reverse punch. Okay, and then incorporating how to block, reverse punch, and then use the other movement in the kata to your advantage within the same sequence of attack. Hey. All right, that's the simplistic way. Just simply block, reverse punch, counterattack. Block and counter. Now, we'll show you a little bit more advanced way in incorporating the next movement within the kata. Let's do it the other way so that you can see what's happening here. Remember, in the kata, you block, punch, and then step back up to here. We're going to use that same sequence to block or take out the punch that comes from the other side. Okay, this is one of the intricacies of Shorin-ryu karate. Hi! Hi-ya! Hi-ya! Now, you'll notice what's happening here. This is a sort of a stance unique to this style. What happens is, after the second punch is blocked, the rear foot stands up. What this does is it increases the range, or brings your fist closer to the target. Instead of being in a deep stance, by now reversing that, you can see that it brings it right up to the target, either to the face, or you can punch the solar plexus the same way. Hi! Okay. The next sequence of movements within Pinan Godan Kata, stepping out outside blocking, and then stepping forward with this double punch maneuver like this. Here's the application for that. Hi! Hi-ya! Let me see that one more time. Hi-ya! All right, now, let's go through that slowly so you can see what's happening. What's really going on there is, as the kick comes in, you actually step off, tie sabak out of the way. As you tie sabak, you punch his leg like this on the inside for a block, or you can down block. And then what happens is you simultaneously hit the solar plexus. That's the actual bunkai there. We'll do it for you one more time. Okay, Steve. Yeah! Hi. In the next portion of the kata, we get into an area that is unique to this particular version, and that is the pecking or poking sort of a counterattack evolved from the white crane system, which is part of this kata. You'll realize or recall that from this position, the next movement within the kata is to step up, left hand block, and then the right hand comes around. Now, looking at it from the other angle, what happens is block, and the right hand comes around like this. There's several things going on there. It is a blocking motion followed by a beak thrust or a nukite thrust to your opponent's throat. So the sequence of movements within the kata is this way. That can either be a poke or thrust or block, either one. I'll show you some different applications there. Hey. Okay, blocking with the rear hand first. This comes back to poke. This is the suprasternal notch technique. This occurs in many of the advanced kata. This is also a pressure point technique where you can actually take your opponent down simply by applying a little pressure. He will go straight down. You can try that on your own. All right, another way is to block a double punch with the same sequence of movements. And then wind up with the same poking technique. You can see some accuracy is required there. And the way this technique works is to block, thread the needle, this is sometimes called, like that. Now the second block occurs when the next punch comes in, just simply blocking quickly and then moving back to the suprasternal notch technique. Hey. Now our next series of movements includes a block and attack in two different directions. If you're following the pattern here, you'll remember that we block and thrust, then step out this way, block to the rear, and then come back and thrust again to the front. All right, this is to deal with multiple opponents, one to the rear and one to the front. All right, we'll show you how that works. Okay, from this portion of the kata, as your opponent attacks from the rear, the idea is to step away from his attack, down block. Okay, as he comes in, you're turning and stepping away, down block, punch, come back and thrust to another opponent coming in from the other side. Now that thrust is a nukite straight into the throat. Again, the suprasternal notch technique, right like this. Right, you recall the preceding movement in the kata. We finished up with a thrust to the throat like this. Now, the next sequence in the kata is a crescent kick followed by an elbow strike. Now, looking at that from a different view, okay, crescent kick, and then stepping down with an elbow strike. Let's show you what the bunkai looks like right there. We're going to use we're going to use a little protective armor on this one since the elbow strike is very powerful and a little dangerous. All right. Hey. Okay. Slow motion. Show you how that works. Knife hand block. You know, can be converted to a thrust or whatever within the kata. Okay, or just a taisabak thrust as he comes in. Next move, grabbing, crescent kick. The crescent kick works well when it comes up and strikes the floating ribs like that, or you can use it as a strike to the face, either one. What I'm showing you here is one version where you use the crescent kick, strike and let it slide off, so you can step behind like this and then follow up with a powerful elbow strike, boom, like that, takedown. And then whatever follow-up technique you want to use. Right. The next movement in the kata is after the elbow strike. This is to step in, block, doing a down block, and then protecting your head with your left hand, and then reversing your hands to form a back fist strike, like this. What's happening here is you are closing the gap on your opponent, and then once you get in close, you're doing a back fist to the face. Here's what it looks like. Hi. Okay, one more time. All right, slow motion. As the opponent comes in, block, slide in if you have to, reverse your hands, back fist right to the face like that. Hi. We're now in the final stages of the kata, of Pinan Godan. And you'll recall, after the back fist, what happens is you step off with your left foot, turn, come into this position, step down, and jujiuke or X block like that. What's happening here is we're going to ground or dropping down either underneath our opponent's punch or grabbing his leg or stopping his leg so that we can execute a technique from the ground. This particular sequence we're going to do is a leg bar. You'll see how that works. Hey. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so the idea here is we'll go a little slow and see if we can slow this down so you can see all the movements. As the opponent's front kick comes in, we block, reverse the hands, and do a leg bar against the inside of his knee joint like that. Next movement is a retaliation. You must counter. So after the leg bar throw, you simply counter by following up with a groin punch like that. Hey. This is the final bunkai sequence of Pinan Godan. The last movement now was the X block from the ground. All right, once the X block from the ground is performed, you stand up and pull your hands apart like this, stepping back twice, repeating the technique on either side of your body. Now, there's at least two different interpretations here. The first one is a block against a front kick and a simple reverse punch counterattack. Hey. All right, now, another interpretation is to use your rear hand to block, and then again your lead hand to punch. You've seen this earlier in the time. Hey. Let's go around the other way. We're going to do this the other way for you so you can get a little bit better shot of what's happening. Hey. thank you very much. That concludes this tape on the Pinon kata and all the various bunkai. Make sure you study it well, particular applications, and then I encourage you to develop some of your own. Thank you very much. I'm George Alexander.